All right. Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Travel Podcast. This is your host, Kushalmehra. So, today is our follow up podcast. This is going to be titled The, the End of Hinduism. I'm sorry, I can't control my laughter.
I can't hear you. You're breaking up.
I'm perfectly audible to everyone. साले तेरा इंटरनेट ऐसा ही है. Wait. अपने आप तेरी
So
गाड़ी
my
ठीक हो जाएगी.
internet. हाँ अब ठीक हो
So,
गया.
So today's podcast is titled The End of Hinduism Q A. So just to give you guys a brief background about what we are going to do together today. So last time, as you know, Abhijit had come on the podcast and he had presented his hypothesis about why he thinks for certain particular reasons Hinduism as we know today might cease to exist in the next 100 years or by the end of the century, whatever way you want to take it. Now, obviously, I had a lot of disagreements with that hypothesis, so which I wanted to address, but we, because of paucity of time, we could not address those issues. And today, what we are going to do is we're going to have more of a back and forth discussion where we can actually converse with each other. As you see, Abhijit has suddenly disappeared from the screen, but don't worry, he will be back. He's back. There you go. Abhijit is back. Don't worry, guys. So, as I had said, so today is going to be more of a back and forth discussion. Just to, as they say with Abhijit, there is a saying: he came, he saw, he conquered. With Abhijit and his last end of Hinduism discussion, it was he came, he saw, he pissed everyone off and depressed the shit out of them. So that was the criteria. So now this is how we are going to start. Abhijit, अभी तुझे
I
मेरी
can't
आवाज
hear
आ
you.
रही है? तुझे क्यों नहीं मेरी आवाज आ रही? तू अपने फोन से आ जा नहीं तो.
It was perfect till we went live.
शाबाश. So यहाँ तो तेरे फोन से आ तू.
हाँ मैं फोन से आते हैं. एक मिनट.
हाँ चल फोन से आ. कोई बात नहीं. मैं तब तक I will keep the audience engaged and entertained. Don't worry. I will keep the audience engaged and entertained. Don't worry. So, guys, as you see, what a wonderful start to the discussion. As always, Abhijit's internet has given up. Don't worry, I'll edit all these bits out of the discussion. Abhijit will be back soon from his cell phone. Don't worry about that. And believe me, before we just went live, we tested. Abhijit's internet was working perfectly, and the moment we went live, his internet was like, "Nah, मैं नहीं काम करता." And that's how Abhijit is and his internet is. So let's see now. Okay, let's see if his internet is working. Abhi tujhe आवाज आ रही है?
Yeah, this is actually very good. I can hear you perfectly and it's clear and it's not breaking.
So Abhijit, now you have to conclude there's something wrong with your
There's
MacBook.
something wrong with StreamYard.
Okay, so let's start the discussion now, Abhijit. So obviously, because I have to respond to you today, so let me first start by summarizing your argument. So I'm going to give a very brief summary because it's only fair when we have a discussion. It's very important that I should not be misunderstanding you and misquoting you. So a very short 2 to 3 minute summary of your claim was that Hinduism as we know today has gone through a particular journey. So you obviously started by using the old examples of Christianity in certain parts of the world and how pre-Christian or pre-Islamic religions were wiped out by Abrahamic monotheism in those areas for different reasons. But then they also tried something similar in India, in pre-independence India, not post-independence India, but for certain socio-political and cultural reasons, Hinduism still survived. But what has happened uniquely after independence in this new constitutional republic is the way the constitution is structured and the way the constitution has an asymmetry where Hindu rights are objectively and qualitatively and quantitatively trampled by the Indian state, which is actively anti-Hindu. This is the reason that there is a unique threat that is posed to Hinduism. And because of that, you think Hinduism, as we understand and as we have known for the last 6,000 years, is going to end. Am I wrong or right in your summary of your argument?
Correct.
All right, fair enough. So now, Abhijit, these are my objections to your hypothesis, and so now you will have to hear me today and give me some time. Now, first, I'm going to start by explaining this, that the entire premise. See, one of the most important things that people have to realize, that was even part of your premise, was the elite theory. Now, what is the elite theory or the elite hypothesis? Is basically this theory explains that there is a small minority, that is the members of the higher echelons of the society, the elites in a society, that have a disproportionately high influence on the direction or the destiny of a society. Now, in the as you have stated in multiple examples, is what has happened is, when you have used history as an example, you've used the elite hypothesis, that in case of the pagan Europe, when the elites became Christian, they had certain effects on society. In India's case, when the elites became Hindu. Now, in the same case, now post independence India, your claim is that the elites are actively working against the Indian state. Now, while I take your argument, so this is my first objection. Now, the a priori assumption over here, Abhijit, is, and you can correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth here. I think there is a fundamental error here, is that maybe you're assuming that the Indian elite is not going to change at all. I believe the Indian elite is changing, but it is changing at a slower rate. Now, we can quibble and argue about the rate at which the elite is willing to change, but we cannot quibble about the intent of the elite. Because if you look at the Hindu elite, I'm not talking about the elites in general. Obviously, the left wing in India is very anti-Hindu. But in the case of the BJP, I believe the BJP does understand the problems. What they are facing is a 60-year hegemony on controlling Indian discourse. And I believe you're being unfair on that. So that's my first point. Now I want to hear you out.
Okay. So, first, I don't know where you're seeing the change, because I certainly don't see the change. If anything, the BJP is going the Congress way. Not in terms of corruption, but certainly in terms of minority appeasement. It took them literally 24 hours to arrest Ashwini Upadhyay for that thing, where they weren't even able to provide proof that he was there at that point of time, yesterday, with the slogan shouting or whatever. When Shaheen Bagh broke out, which was incidentally a carry-on from the Seelampur riots, what were they doing? Nothing. When Shaheen Bagh broke out, even though it was illegal and they were blockading roads, what did they do? Nothing. What did they do when the Delhi riots happened? Finally, after everything, they did something. What did they do when the farmers were plucking up poles and things like that, telephone poles and things like that, till they realized it was Sada Canada ka telephone poles? Nothing. What happened when the riots finally happened? Nothing. They are still blockading roads, and that road going to Ghaziabad is still blocked. So Abhinav still has to take the metro coming into Delhi. What are they doing? Nothing. Okay. And remember, a consistent thing, and they have now decided to shift the OBC lists back to the states, which means it will be given, especially in Andhra and Maharashtra, it is going to be given irrespective of religion to anybody they deem fit. Okay. So there are two things out here. One is this sort of statesman complex. Atal Bihari Vajpayee also felt prey to it, of seeking the validation and needing the stamp of approval of the left. The second, because let's face it, the right is an extremely low intellect bunch of people. The right as we know it, that is. We haven't really developed major right-wing intellect in this country. The second part of it is, can you hear me? Okay, I can't hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you.
And the second part of it is that क्या कहते हैं इसे, a whole movement of the BJP away from its original urban Bania Brahmin voter base to a rural multi-caste voter base, which they again want to expand, and they're trying desperately to get more Sunni votes. Shia votes are already in their bag, right? They're trying to get more Sunni votes. They need more Christian votes. So, for example, it doesn't matter what happens in Andhra, they will never crack the whip. They will never crack the whip in West Bengal.
Okay, so okay, let me come back to you on this one now. Look, as far as the OBC ruling is concerned, I actually disagree with you. I think it's better to give the power back to the states. It's always better for the states to decide what the actual list of OBCs is. As far as the fear raised by a few people where they say, oh, they might consider Muslims to be OBC, we'll see. We'll cross the bridge when it comes. I
See,
don't think
see,
so. That's the fear.
Kushal, that is the worst assumption of law. We will cross the bridge because once it has been done, redoing it becomes impossible. Do you understand? This is like we were discussing on that podcast, which brought about this Q&A. Once the cattle have fled, you can't then put them back into the box again. The political capital that you expend in putting it back in the box becomes too much. Okay, so no, we will not see. It shows you the kind of trashy calculus. Anything you see with the policy, this is something we noticed with India's nuclear policy, that they never considered second and third order effects. With the Modi government, they don't seem to consider second and third order effects of anything, which is why we still don't have a white paper on, say, what happened with demonetization. What were the goals? What were the results? We still don't have a clear white paper on GST. What were the goals? What were the results? What increased? What decreased? What did it stimulate? What did it not stimulate? Etc., etc., etc. With this OBC move, I really, it will benefit some of the BJP state governments. It benefits the BJP electorally, but it hurts Hindus generally, because this is one more avenue for people from the OBC community to double dip, even if they convert out, number one. And number two, it gives complete freedom to the states to put whoever they want, irrespective of what religion, onto that list.
Again, that is assuming that
And mind you, state governments, especially the Congress, TDP, and all these people, they are much, they don't, they are not these, social climbing yuppies who crave social validation from the left. Okay, because in YS Jagan's case, he did a whole load of pro-Christian subsidies and pro-Christian actions within the first 2-3 weeks of coming to power. The DMK within the first month of power has revamped the entire history syllabus, and they've revamped a lot of things. When the Congress government came, for example, they sacked all the education boards and things that the BJP set up. The BJP hasn't done it in 7 years. Right? So there's a lot of things going on here. Never take an argument in its singularity. Always look at it in terms of what is happening all across it.
Yeah, but that could be applied on the other side also, right? It could also happen that they fix this lacuna. They could.
I've given up on them fixing anything because their general rule is they don't think through policies. Or these policies are based on feelings, not on hard statistics, because they don't know. You have second and third order effects, which were never either they were intended, in which case the policy was malign, or it was never considered, which is actually a tribute to incompetence. Right.
Okay.
So
Now,
if you have proven over 7 years that you can't get policy right, then at some point we can't say, oh, this is 10 level master stroke, let us see. There is no more let us see in this anymore.
I
Basic,
personally think this is the right policy. I
do you
believe states
remember,
should have power.
do you
I believe
remember
states should have power.
not here, not in this particular case where a policy will be abused. This is meant to incentivize Hindus, Hindu OBCs who have been discriminated against in the past. Okay, this will be used by the states to satisfy their vote banks. This is not a vote bank measure. This is meant to be a social justice measure for Hindus specifically.
Mhm.
Now, I would have been perfectly okay with this if they had said we are going to pair this with a certificate of declaration that you are a Hindu and get it countersigned by your local temple that you've been a Hindu and you have not converted to any other religion. Okay, it would have also empowered those temples. They will not do it. Okay, so there were checks and balances that could have been put in. They're not putting it in. And this is probably to win 2-3 states at most that they're going to get. That's fine. Hindus can get, I mean, they can vote as much extinction as they want. I mean, ultimately, I don't decide how they vote. They vote and they're getting what they deserve.
All right. Again, I still don't buy the argument. I think the OBC bill and the now, is there a political angle to it? Obviously, there is a
Kushal,
political
you're
angle to it.
saying you don't agree, but you're not giving me a cogent reason why you don't agree. Your reason so
Well,
far has
because
been, let's see. I disagree. Maybe they know something we don't.
no, I'm not
Give me
saying maybe they
something
don't know
tangible and
something.
specific.
On principle, again, on principle, you should give more rights to states. That's just the way it is. Secondly, you have to hear me out now. Every single policy made, it's not like Congress made policies that they're without having any political motive in mind. They always had political motives in mind. Politician will always have political motives in mind. To say that why does the BJP have any political motives itself is a wrong argument. Every political party is going to play
But
politics.
that's
That's just
not
the way.
my argument. My argument isn't about the political motives. Did I ever say a government should not have political motives? My argument is this adds to that double dipping pressure on conversion out of Hinduism. And Hinduism is not the same as the BJP, and the BJP isn't Hinduism.
But how do you take this point and extend it to people wanting to convert out of Hinduism because of OBC reservations?
Because if you convert out, you're not denied those reservations. You convert out, why? What is the reason for converting out? Because you're sick of being not persecuted, oppressed, or whatever it is, of the social injustice. And so you seek another religion whose promise is that we can provide you with social services, we can provide you with social justice, and there will no longer be discrimination against you.
But Abhijit, today, as per Indian law, even in the case, it already exists in the case of scheduled tribes. You and I both know scheduled tribes. It does not matter if you're a Christian scheduled tribe or a Muslim scheduled tribe or a Hindu scheduled tribe. You're eligible for uh, the reservations. In the case of scheduled castes, while they have reservations, only Hindu scheduled castes are allowed reservations. There is no special mention in the law other than the one for the scheduled tribes. From
There
whatever
is
I
no
have read,
mention, there is no mention, or there is no requirement of you being Hindu in any of these laws. Not
no, in scheduled
SC.
caste there is.
No, there isn't.
Scheduled caste there is.
There
Yes, there is.
isn't. There isn't. There's no proof mechanism, boss. You don't even have to sign an affidavit saying that you're a Hindu, leave alone a verification process.
As of now, Abhijit, the Indian law, I'm talking about at the level of the law, not at the level of how it's executed in India.
There is no specific word or wording in that law saying that it is only for Hindus specifically and excluding people who convert out.
Well, from what I have understood, at
Well,
least in
I
my
can't
work,
quote a non-existent clause. Tell me, which clause are you talking about?
okay, so I'll tell you. Wait, give me a minute. In the meantime, I'll talk about the next point that you raised. Now, here's the thing. The entire assumption is based on how does a meme survive. So, just to explain to people what how do memes survive. So, there are basically three factors that make a meme survive. Number one, it has to be genuinely useful to a human host. Number two, it is easily imitable in the human mind. And three is that it tends to answer questions or fill the needs of a particular human host. Now, according to you, the meme, because what is Hinduism? At the end of the day, Hinduism is a meme. It is nothing but a meme. And what we are talking about is whether it's not the question of whether Hindus will survive. The question is whether Hinduism will survive. The meme of Hinduism that is going to survive. Now, while I understand that the Indian state has done a few things that are not incentivizing people remaining Hindu in a positive sense. Now I understand that, but again, it is based on an a priori assumption that the status quo will remain and it doesn't change. Secondly, it also is based on an a priori assumption that Hinduism, the meme itself, is not going to change according to the surroundings. Now, in my opinion, Hinduism has changed. The first big change in Hinduism was in the form of the Bhakti Movement, which was not against the British or anything else. It was a significant change because why? The Bhakti Movement came out to fight extreme caste dogma, for example, where people were not given entry into temples, people were not given entry into multiple places, but it changed. Why did it change? Because it had to survive. And the certain meme in that society kind of upgraded itself. The next change in Hinduism again comes in the form of Hindutva. It changes because the Bhakti movement was not good enough and it changes. So my problem with your claim is that you're assuming that Hindu society stays static and everything else stays dynamic. I don't believe that. I believe Hindu society is also dynamic and others are also. Secondly, there is another a priori assumption in
Okay,
your
there are
argument.
too many assumptions. Let me answer one by one because I can't keep all of these in mind.
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing is I am talking about government actions and economic measures. I'm not talking about Hindu society. Okay, again, you're basing this on the fact that you think, I believe that Hindu, I am not interested in beliefs. The point of statistics isn't if you're doing a future prognostication, you base it on prior trends so far. And what are those trends over the last 70 years? Have you been able to combat conversion? No. For the last 70 years, you absolutely have not. Okay, so you project trends from the past out onto the future. That is why I brought in that 1947 change point, that the economics were different prior to that. The social conditions, the governmental regulations were different before that. They changed completely after that. So again and
Well,
again, I mean, you keep
if
saying
you're
a
talking
priori
about
assumption.
statistics,
You're constantly coming from this hope that Hinduism is dynamic enough and it will change. There
no,
is no
then again you're
statistical
wrong, because if
trajectory
your
on that.
assumption is that Hinduism is reducing, well, the Pew polls recently said that it's actually remaining in the same range, because whatever the people had left Hinduism, equally same number of people had come back to Hinduism because of the
Yeah.
changes in Hindu society. That's a
Yes.
statistic.
Yes. And remember, that never takes into account crypto Christians and crypto Muslims. A lot of people who take on caste certificates that I know, I mean, forget now. 20 years back, no, well, not 20, about 25 years back when I was entering college, half my class were Christians who had gotten on reservation. It was just that, you only got to know they were Christian after a point of time.
It
And they would get
also does
social
not
services
take
from the
into
church as well.
account it also does not take into account crypto Hindus inside Muslim and Christian societies. It equally applies to both sides.
Absolutely. But what is the benefits that those people get?
The question is not the state
Where is
benefits
the
those people
state
get.
protection that any of those people get?
I'm willing to concede that point, but you asked me, show me a statistic that shows that Hindu society is going on falling. I did show you a statistic. I just shared the Pew poll. The Pew poll clearly states that people are coming back into the Hindu society. You replied to me that it
Yeah.
does not configure crypto Christians and Muslims.
Correct.
To that, my account is it also doesn't consider crypto Hindus. So that's an assumption. That's not a hard data point. That's an assumption
Fair
at your
enough.
end too, then.
Fair enough. Except it also doesn't cover, the pupils also doesn't cover certain realities. You go into certain areas of Tanjavur district and things like that, which have converted completely into Islam from being hardcore Hindu places. You go into the fisherman belt of Andhra and Tamil Nadu, the rate of conversion is truly astounding. Yet it is not reflected in the poll. How many people did the poll interview?
Well, look, polls are
How
always
many
going
people
to
did the poll interview?
24,000. I think 24,000 to be
Exactly.
precise.
Now remember,
24,000.
even 24,000, we should know from our election prediction, depending on the pattern. See, they will go by population. They will say Andhra and Tamil Nadu will get respondents from there based on numbers. Statistically, it's fine. But in a country that has so much variation in terms of land ownership patterns, economic patterns, and all of that, each one of these will vary based on area. The church, as I have seen it in Tamil Nadu and Andhra, I don't claim to have seen it in other places. I certainly don't claim to have seen it in the Northeast. Is the way it organically responds to a challenge is very different from the way it responds to the challenge in the Andamans, and it's extremely organic. It's extremely on the ball. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. Okay, so a Pew poll will never truly reflect what is completely happening in this thing. I accept the statistics behind it. What I'm saying is there's a huge difference between what the Pew poll is saying statistically and what I have seen in the Tamil Nadu, because technically Madras should have been part of Andhra. We exchanged it. Tirupati went to Andhra and Madras came to Tamil Nadu. What we have seen in the southern Andhra belt and the entire Tamil Nadu coastal belt tells you a very, very different story. It starts off with syncretism. The slum behind my house, everybody used to be a Hindu 30 years back, but there used to be one picture of Jesus somewhere out there. Today, there's no pictures of Hindu gods. I go back to all the ayas and nanas and all of that who used to look after me, cook for me. I'll go have lunch with them or something like that. I see it. It's gone. The mushrooming of churches there is nothing. There are no temples left. Where are beach houses? Where are forest houses? The beach house, at least there used to be 5 temples around us. Today there's one. There was one church 26 years back. Today there's about 18 churches around us. So there's something that's not reflecting a ground reality out there. Okay, you look at what has happened in the Northeast. They've gone from animism to Christianity when? When did they become Christian?
I think in the last 200 years.
Yeah, well, in the last 100 years, technically. Right?
Well, you have to see. I was thinking from the start point to the end point. That's why I said 200 years.
Well, they became a Christian majority only in the last 50, 60 years, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And what did the Indian state do? Nothing. Even today, what is the Indian state doing? Nothing. You look at the Muslim population in Bengal today. Where do you see it? Nothing. Now you tell me, I want the viewers to chime in on this because this is meant to be a public Q&A as well. Where have you seen? This is an open challenge to, because I'm telling you this from my own observations of Bengal and Tamil Nadu and Andhra, where I'm from, including Palakkad. Palakkad, for example, has now become a Muslim majority, I think, apparently. Well, the number of mosques and things you see now in Palakkad, we never used to see once upon a time. Now you tell me, I want the viewers to tell us where they see that they see actually more Hindu temples and things like that. Because see, there has to be proof. When Pew poll says this, I don't doubt it. I'm sure statistically, it's a good measure. The point is, I want to see living proof of it. So tell me where you see this.
Is your question, where do I see people converting back into Hinduism?
Yeah.
Urban slums.
Okay.
Because you know it damn well I do all these things. So I don't want to diverge
So
beyond the
maybe
point because of
Maharashtra
my
is
own sake.
balancing out. But I can tell you in Tamil Nadu and Andhra, it absolutely is not. In Bengal, it is not. In the Northeast is, of course, already gone. So that's that. Kashmir is gone. UP, Bihar, I keep getting conflicting reports from people. I haven't been on the ground out there, so I don't see. But anyway, let's even assume that this balance theory is right. Okay, let's assume that, in fact, the number of people converting to Hinduism is the same as the number converting out of Hinduism. the power structures are not supporting a conversion to Hinduism. You lose
Okay,
benefits if you convert.
you asked me to state where in the law was the scheduled caste thing. It's only fair that I answer that. Paragraph 3 of the Constitution, Scheduled Caste Order 1950, restricts Christians of scheduled caste origin from availing the scheduled caste status. And FII, there is actually a case going on, which is being fought, and it is in front of Bobde, I think, where they want it to be specifically religiously neutral. If you want, I can share the link. I
हाँ
can
मेरे को
even
please
share
link भेजो.
articles.
हाँ
I
मेरे
can
को
even
link
share
भेजो
you.
please.
I can even share you articles of mentioning that and sharing that.
Hmm.
So I'm telling you, this is a very specific thing, and I'll share the most left-wing Ghatia source, Hindu.
भेजो भेजो.
भेजा तेरे को प्राइवेट चैट चेक कर and I'm also typing this source in our live comment section for our live viewers. I know this for a fact. Scheduled castes are not given this. They are fighting for it. And I told you, if the government bends on this, I will be the first person to sit on a hunger strike. And I will be the first person if it happens with the OBCs also. I know it happens with STs. It does not happen with SCs. And I know it is not going to happen with OBCs, which is why I applaud this OBC decision. It is going to be politically devastating to the opposition of
Have you
BJP.
sent it
फाड़
to
के रख
me?
देने वाले. भेजा ना भाई तेरे को प्राइवेट चैट में.
ओ इधर. अच्छा अच्छा. 1 second.
तू तेरे लैपटॉप पे चेक करना, वो तो तू खोल सकता है ना लैपटॉप पे. So guys, I did not speak out of my ass, for the record, and you can see this for yourself. It is very clear. uh, the petition that is there in the Supreme Court, I repeat, is highlighting how paragraph 3 of the Constitution, Scheduled Caste Order 1950, restricts Christians of scheduled caste origin from availing the scheduled caste status. This is a fact. This is not a conspiracy theory. I am stating something factual. So in my opinion, the claim made by Abhijit that the OBC amendment is going to be anti-Hindu is not on sound grounding. This argument is not correct. Now, you guys can disagree with me. That is fine. I can't do much about that. But it is not on sound ground. This argument is flawed. This argument is not based on actual fact. And I hope Abhijit corrects himself, because these are blatant facts. Now, until Abhijit comes back, unfortunately, his internet has given up again. I'm very sorry about this. And Abhijit is back.
Damn.
Abhijit's
यार
internet.
मेरे को please chat पे मत भेजो because I'm on my phone ना. It causes a lot of trouble. Then I keep getting locked out and shit like
Okay,
that.
चल मैं तेरे को DM करूंगा. मैं तेरे को
हाँ.
DM करूंगा.
Anyway, now the computer is working, so that's fine. Right.
Okay.
Now, where is the
Chal.
validation mechanism? How do you determine who's a Christian and who's not?
Okay, but if there is no validation mechanism, it's still, why are people going in the court? That means it is working. That's why people are challenging it in the Supreme Court, Abhijit.
It's not. It's because they want an affirmation of their open Christianity. They want to have, instead of having Sarat Kumar, who you don't know is a Hindu, which was the case 25 years back when I was in college, they want to be Ambrosius Kumar. Now, an Ambrosius Kumar, it will raise questions. The issue is, where does it specifically, do you know, you're never actually denied it if you produce your caste certificate. Because I sat with Guru Prakash and Abhinav to discuss this. The only thing they require from you is your father or your mother or both are scheduled caste. There is no affidavit to this thing. There is no rejection also, even if you have a Christian name. There's no question asked. You don't even have to tick a column saying you're a Hindu.
Look, again, these are anecdotes. Like I have seen
These are not
anecdotes where people
anecdotes.
have been.
These are not
Yeah, but I
anecdotes.
have seen.
Guru Prakash and Abhinav have both been through the process, now getting their certificates.
Yeah, but even I have been through the process. I've worked in SC/ST areas, Abhijit, extensively in the entire belt of Palghar, which is dominated by SC/STs, and I have seen
Sure.
people not given these things, not given these benefits because they converted, and they were like, "Give me," and the government refused to them. So what am I supposed to believe then when I see something else happening on the ground too?
Then it's a regional variation. Again, that goes against giving the power to the state. Because some states will then ignore it. Clearly, then, for Tamil Nadu ignores it. Bihar, UP, I don't know what happens. Going by what Abhinav and Guru Prakash say, clearly they ignore it too. Maybe Maharashtra enforces it. So what do you end up doing?
So this is something I actually agree with you. So what is happening here is that the moment there is a very hyperactive Hindu social machinery that is very hyperactive about these things around the. So I can't take names for their own safety, and I refuse to take names because I know so many people who are fighting about this very thing. They're very particular. The moment somebody claims, see, these our societies are ghettoized. So even when it is like a SC/ST village, they're all ghettoized. Unfortunately, that's how. And the mass number of these conversions now out of Hinduism are happening in rural India, not in urban India. Urban India mein gaadi ulti ho rahi hai. Urban India mein they are coming back into Hinduism because Hindus are asserting themselves in big way in urban India. So in rural India, what has happened is a lot of these groups, again, I am not taking the names of these groups of Maharashtra for their safety, nothing else. And I saw, they're very vigilant. कोई जाके reservation मांगेगा ना, वो जाके बोलेंगे इसकी family का record निकालो. फिर जाके उसको वो लोग लिटरली बोलूं स्पाई करते थे, और कोई आंसर नहीं है मेरे पास कि ये चर्च जा रहा है कि मंदिर जा रहा है.
So that is a community response. Understand, this is like, how there were community responses to Turkic atrocities. There was a Rana Pratap. There was Chittorgarh. How many times did Chittorgarh women commit Johar to protect their religion? But that wasn't a uniformed systemic response. Right?
I agree,
You have to systematically institutionalize the response.
Okay, I'm willing to concede that point to you, but my point was not that. My point was the law is very clear, constitution is very clear, the execution is the problem. Now, where these problems are existing, the society is trying to fill that gap by doing on-ground activism. I take your point that we should fill that gap by now. I don't know what that answer, like you have suggested, there has to be the temple pujari certificate or some sort of a thing.
Not the pujari. Have a temple bureaucracy that gives you the certificate.
Yeah, मतलब temple trust हो गया या कुछ हो गया.
Kuch, something like that.
Yeah, so I am willing to take that point, Abhijit, but that was not the crux of my argument. The crux of my argument was something else. The crux of my argument was that your assumption that this is going to happen in OBC was, in a legal sense, was not something that I agree with. That's all I was saying.
It will happen because as long as you don't have an institutional validation mechanism, it will happen. This is what happened with all schools of thought in Hinduism. When the Brits come, they have a formal education system. India did not have a formal education system before that. So you had to get a degree certificate. Today, why do 90% of all court judgments go against oral traditions as opposed to written traditions? Because you have a formal canon of writing which says this. So when the Supreme Court and all things today, the modern state is based on writing, not on oral tradition. Anytime an oral tradition goes up against a written tradition, the written tradition will win. This can't be on the basis of community responses. We can't just give it away and say, oh, well, we hope the community copes with it.
I'm not saying
that's like Rajendra Chora. That's like Rajendra Chora saying, "Oh, I wish the Solanki king could cope with, Ghazni sacking."
Abhijit, again, you're misquoting me.
I'm not quoting you. I'm not quoting you. I'm drawing an analogy. I'm not quoting you.
Okay, then it's fair, because my point is very simple. My point is the law is maybe inadequate, but the law exists. We need to make the law
The
more
law
robust. I'm willing
exists
to
in
concede that.
writing. Like most laws in India, it exists in writing. It is almost worthless in practice.
Again, Abhijit, if what happens on the ground, see, अभी मुझे समझने दे तेरी आर्ग्यूमेंट. तू ये कह रहा है लॉ जो भी होने दो ग्राउंड पे ये होता है, और ग्राउंड अगर लॉ जो भी होने दो ग्राउंड पे ये होता है तो ग्राउंड पे फिर उसको अपोज करने वाली भी चीजें होती रहती हैं. देन द लॉ डजंट मैटर एट ऑल ना. तो दोनों फोर्सेस सोशल लेवल पे आ गई
The
ना.
law matters. The law matters, but India is an enforcement deficit state. Understand, the church is not an enforcement deficit organization. A law with an enforcement deficit is no match for a calibrated organization which is very fine-tuned, which is both decentralized in practice and centralized in theology at the same time. You are no match for something like that. And that is exactly what I was trying to tell you. That is why I brought in the Roman Empire. You're repeating every single thing I said in the Roman Empire part of this thing. Community responses is like the Mithraites or the worshippers of Venus or the worshippers of Jupiter coming up with their own individual community responses and not coordinating their actions together.
Again, you're assuming that the state is not going to do anything.
Don't tell me I'm assuming. I am
You are.
seeing the state not doing anything.
No, you
It
are
is a
assuming
pattern
it.
of the state not doing anything.
Define. Okay, define. Tell me tangibly what would be an accurate standard response of an active state doing something correct.
Demand proof of being a Hindu.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If it is found at any point of time that you misrepresented, all benefits given to you will be withdrawn, and there will be a monetary penalization of you, because an affidavit is ultimately a legal document. You're swearing to it, and it is punishable by. So you don't even have to enact that. But a validation of you being Hindu, number one. And number two would be the standardization of that to all the states. So by all means, give it to the states, but the states have to then, there has to be one more paragraph added in there saying, what is your validation mechanism? You will get the power only till you have a validation mechanism. And what happens, because there are certain things that I have seen personally in Tamil Nadu, I don't know about Andhra, wherein, there will be enough people in a government department who will actually collude to go along with a lie. So this is why I brought in Honorius. You remember what Honorius did? He penalized non-compliance with the persecution edicts. You have to penalize non-compliance. The states have to provide an audit of what was rejected, what was given, on what basis, what follow-up was done, what investigation was done.
All right. Okay. On this, I'm actually completely in agreement with you. On this, I actually 100% agree with you. There, the state has to actively disincentivize somebody cheating to be a Hindu and actively incentivize somebody coming back into the Hindu fold. That I'm willing to accept.
No, you don't have to incentivize people coming back into the Hindu fold. That violates secularism. You can't do that.
I know. But यार, अगर reservation होएगा तो automatically incentivize होता है आदमी. मतलब
no, not for
indirect
Christians.
तो होएगा ना.
Not for Christians, because there are enough Christian institutions.
Again, this is a social conclusion. I know many Christians who do come back to Hinduism, and I know many Muslims who are leaving Islam.
I don't know Muslims who are leaving Islam, but I know, I know one. I can't name her because that will be, the consequences of it. Yeah, and I do know about a few more Christians who have kind of almost left. The issue always is that when those 4 or 5 friends that I have do not compensate for the large mass, that slum of say 15,000 behind me, which is now entirely Christian.
Fair enough. I actually do understand this point. And this is my last point, and Abhijit, then we'll completely go to the questions, because I think it's only fair we do it for the live viewers also. So my last question is, and this is, look, we've debated the state bit. Now we're just not going to agree, because I agree with you on certain points. I just don't agree about that. What is the condition of the state leading to the end of Hinduism is somewhere where we disagree on. We don't disagree on whether the state is ideal or not. We both hate the state.
Do you agree that it is a pre-industrial state?
Absolutely, my brother. You and I are the only ones who keep calling it that.
Do you agree that all pre-industrial states, their enforcement capacity isn't a patch on a fully industrial state?
100%.
Then there you have your answer.
No, see, this is where we don't have our answer, because India, for all the time, if you're claiming the end of Hinduism hypothesis on the basis of a non-compliant state, that means a state that is dysfunctional, then that kind of a state has been dysfunctional in India for a long time.
I'm not talking about dysfunctional. I'm talking about an enforcement deficit state. All states are dysfunctional, because that's based, the functionality is based on an ideal society which doesn't exist. There's not a single functional country on earth. Every country is dysfunctional to some extent or the other.
But the enforcement of a state, or the functionality of a state, at least in my opinion, as far as the Indian state is concerned, like even if we look at the Indian state under the Marathas, I mean, even what were the Marathas doing? They were taxing the shit out of their own people. Like they were going after the Bhadoria Rajputs, and they were taxing the Bhadoria Rajputs unjustly, which led the Bhadoria Rajputs to go with the Mughals and later on to go with the British. So the functionality of the Indian state has been what it is forever. But if that is the point, then the battle is at the social realm. And this is where my biggest disagreement with you is. That at the social realm, I think you're too negative about the strength of the Hindu society. I am not negative. I'm actually very positive about the strength of the
I'm not negative about the strength of Hindu society. I am negative about its ability to form a coherent social response.
Okay, see, this is where I don't get it. Once again, my monologue yesterday...
And to translate that into political action.
Look, how has it not resulted in political action?
How has it? You have an allegedly Hindu government that is being anything but.
This is the first one in the experiment.
It will very soon be the last one.
No, it will not.
It will. Herein lies the problem.
Based on what? It is based on what?
It's based on history.
What history? Hindus are actually in a very weird way. No, I'm sorry. Then that's not a right answer. Because, okay, I'll give you an example. You said Hindus are not changing. But Hindus are changing. They're actually Abrahamizing in a very Hindu way. So I'll give you an example. Again, there are so many big social organizations like Baba Ramdev's or Shri Shri's or Jaggi Vasudev or many. I'm just using these three names because people or our audiences are more urban centric. So they're going to relate to this. But the point is, now let's say Baba Ramdev, he's opening 2,000 schools in India. What are those 2,000 schools going to teach? Are they going to teach secular education? They're going to make their kids do bhajans and havans. Similarly, Shri Shri does activities in different areas. And these people are actively working with the state. Now, someone like Jaggi Vasudev is running such a nice campaign about freeing temples.
And what happens to Baba Ramdev when the BJP goes?
उसको डंडा पड़ा था एक बार.
फिर भी डंडा पड़ेगा. एक और बार डंडा पड़ेगा. It's a very and this is where the function of being a third world country, where laws can be interpreted completely in their opposite means, and that is why institutional response is required. Okay, and the lack of a state monopoly on violence. Okay, your Hindus aren't getting protection, number one, because the law will always gravitate towards protecting the more... It's a colonial law, okay? That law has nothing to do with the modern Indian state. That's a colonial law, which is about The state is not going to provide you with services, security services, so you protect yourself. It is your responsibility to not make too much of a hangama. If somebody makes too much of a hangama, then the law automatically protects the people making the hangama and accepts that their sentiments have been outraged and comes and gets you. ठीक है ना? So the law is not protecting you, number one. Number two, the law can be turned around on you very, very quickly, which the Congress and people are very good at doing. The BJP hasn't done that. But are you really claiming the Congress won't do that?
Honestly, I don't see the Congress coming back for at least 2 decades. That's my political understanding.
Tell me, what is the value? Tell me which, where are people graduating from Baba Ramdev ashrams? Is he starting 2,000 schools?
He's already working on so many schools in rural India.
Okay, good for him. Yeah. I know several other schools also that are coming up. I don't know if Shri Ravi Shankar is doing it, but anyway, I know lots of individuals doing that individually and things like that. What is the protection they get? Zilch. What is the harassment they get? A heck of a lot. Mm-hmm. Okay. A Christian institution will not be harassed or bribed because it is automatic. If a minority submits a thing for, okay, Hindus have to go through many more loops to do it. Agree. Plus, there's further harassment because you can get away with harassing a Hindu school.
Agree.
Essentially.
Agree.
Right.
Agree. So which is why I found today's recommendation. I don't know if you're aware of this. I'm not saying it's a law. Again, before somebody says you're Kushal, you're misquoting. I'm not misquoting. I'm literally saying this was a recommendation today, which was made by. Let me be very. The NCPCR survey said it wants all minority schools under RTE.
नहीं होगा यार.
एक मिनट, मगर हमारे देश के ब्यूरोक्रेट का माइंडसेट देखो, वो क्या बोलते हैं मालूम है कि हमने 5 लोगों को डिस्ट्रॉय किया, हमको बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, उधर कोने में ये जो 2 बैठे हैं खुशी से, उनको भी डिस्ट्रॉय कर दो, वो 5 के जैसा बना दो.
So therein is the second point. Your RTE has destroyed any kind of financial viability for schools?
एक मिनट, your RTE has destroyed, मैं तेरे को खुले शब्दों में बोल रहा हूँ, RTE has destroyed Hindu schools in Tamil Nadu because see a lot this is
not just in Tamil Nadu, across the board it's destroyed a lot of schools.
No, see the point is RTE ka get out of jail free card है linguistic minority. It destroys societies that are linguistically homogeneous. States like Maharashtra, states like Gujarat, states like Rajasthan, they are not linguistically homogeneous. Linguistically homogeneous states are suffering more because they don't have. जैसे अभी बॉम्बे में सिंधी ट्रस्ट हैं, मारवाड़ी ट्रस्ट हैं, they are completely out of RTE यार. There are ways out of this. Problem ये है कि तमिलनाडु में नहीं है वो, इसके लिए तमिलनाडु के स्कूल सफर कर रहे हैं.
So you don't have a Chettiar association, a Tevar association and things like that, but those are caste associations. They're not linguistic associations. So in Karnataka, what would a Tulu school get that thing? In which case it would be interesting to see. But see, here's the issue. How many of your current institutions are going to shut and start up new ones?
Again, all I'm saying, Abhijit, is I am not defending RTE. All I'm saying is I'm laying the facts on the ground that what is the actual reality. Everybody thinks because it is happening in Tamil Nadu, all of India is suffering. All of India is not. Tamil Nadu is suffering in a very major way. I'm not a defender of the law.
All of India is suffering. It's that some people manage to avoid it.
Yeah. Okay, that I think that you have worded it better. I will concede that. You have worded it better. But my point is that, again, I am not going to deny that the Indian Hindu state actively, does anal things to the Hindu Samaj. My point is that the state as it is in India, we are a governance deficit state. We make laws to hide our governance deficit. And what happens is, even in the laws, look, we are friends.
We don't make laws to hide our governance deficit. We make laws to extend the powers of the state in spite of the governance deficit.
Yes, that's the problem, which is the case what happened with you. What happened is, if a politician in that state would not have taken offense to what you said, you would have been free. But the point is,
No, but
because
see, that's a rule of law issue. That's
Hmm,
separate. Let's not conflate the two. Here, the issue is the Hindu disproportionately bears the burden of bureaucratic incompetence.
mhm,
The minority disproportionately benefits from the ability of that community either to fail or succeed. So, for example,
true.
if you look at a lot of Sunni Muslim communities, they will fail because they've got dumb fucks as leaders. On the other hand, certain communities will succeed spectacularly because they've got extremely dynamic leaders. I mean, I'm using the word dynamic. I'm not saying progressive, regressive. Most of them are, in my opinion, extremely regressive. Okay.
Mhm,
Then you have something like the church, which is extremely well organized. It learns its lessons very, very quickly because, the archdiocese powers and the episcopal powers given to the archdiocese are enormous. Within a set of first principles, they're able to modify and this thing, and it all goes into a centralized bank of knowledge where the storing and retrieval of knowledge is enormous, as opposed to a babu who's posted to education for 3 years, who would have been posted in fodder management 3 years back, and so his educational policies will be the same as India's human feces policies.
mhm.
Okay, so it is an institutional imbalance. And it is an institutional, on one hand, you have a dynamic institution, on the other, you have an extremely incompetent, non-dynamic institution that is shoving its incompetence down your throats.
Mhm.
Right? So again, this is where we keep going back to the Christianization of the Roman Empire. And mind you, the Romans were far more organized in a philosophical sense than we are today.
Well, look, my point is very simple. Do I agree with the problems that you have identified? Yeah. Um, but here's the thing: is it a it might be a necessary condition for the demise of Hinduism. I don't think so. It is a sufficient condition, because I think there are far more factors that are going to come and play a role of a pushback. What you're doing is a pushback. The problem is you're assuming your pushback does not matter. My point is that these pushbacks matter and the state will change.
My point is not that whether it matters or not. My point is it has to be a coordinated and synchronized pushback.
Okay. Why do you think people n- do you think that free temple movement is now a coordinated and a synchronized pushback or not?
Yeah. Yes and no.
Yes. Come on.
Yes
You
and no.
have
I'll
a
tell you why. No, I'll tell you why.
okay.
Yes, because there is traction towards it. No, because it has no public resonance. You see public resonance on Twitter, you don't see it on the ground. As opposed to, say, something like Shabarimala, which on Twitter was like, I mean, based on Twitter, nobody could have expected how it was going to explode on the ground. But remember, whatever happened with Shabarimala just happened there in the context of Shabarimala. Where was the pushback on the taking away of the wealth of the Padmanabhaswamy temple?
From what I remember, there was a pushback within the Hindu Samaj in Kerala, right? I clearly remember this was a huge issue that time. Abhijit, can you hear me?
I can't.
Again, what
Let me
happened to your
join.
internet again?
Let me join.
Okay, in again. All right, guys. So I'm so sorry. Believe me, it is Abhijit's internet. It is not me. uh, I don't know what happens to his internet. Every once in a while, it goes crazy, and then he blames me. But it is really not me. And now I'm going to start taking all your questions. I'll try to take as many as possible. I've opened up many because there are too many questions, and I'm going to try and cover all of them, as many as possible. I'm only going to take questions which are relevant to this discussion. You have some question about other things that happen on Twitter. I am least bothered about them. I could care less about it. The focus will be only on questions related to this issue, and that too questions. I can not use comments. So I'm only going to look at questions, not the comments. Once again, I want to be very clear about that. And also, by the way, a lot of you had emailed me things after listening or watching the first podcast. So what I did was I forwarded all those emails to Abhijit. So those will be read by Abhijit on his own spare time. I can't take each and every email and deal with emails. You had written like three page long emails, and you can't be expecting me to, take each and every point that has been written in an email and answer each and every one of them. But as far as I'm concerned, I forwarded it all to Abhijit. All right. Okay. Let me start taking your questions now, because I don't know when Abhijit is coming back. So it's only fair that. Okay. Sandeep, isn't it the responsibility and opportunity for the Indic and right wing to pressurize the government against Pakistan blasphemy case of a 8-year-old Hindu boy? What has that got to do with today's discussion? So I don't care. Again, the next one is a comment. I'll only take questions. Okay, Abhijit is back. He's back. He's back. Okay, Abhijit, now we're just going to take questions from the audiences. Okay? Okay. So, Abhijit, this is a very interesting question, because you were asking about the lackadaisical state. So somebody has mentioned, should we become a vigilant state like the Chinese state, like in a way go to state controlled capitalism where everybody
No,
has social.
no. Can you imagine what happens with a vigilant state if somebody like Sonia Gandhi comes to power?
Yes.
Are you
पर
mad?
अभी तक बचे हुए हैं क्योंकि डिसफंक्शनल है, वो भी खत्म हो जाएगा अगर स्टेट को पावर दे दिया, आके घुसड़ देगा हमारे अंदर. See, okay, just let me put this on record. Do you guys realize that the reason mavericks, and I use this word with full responsibility, mavericks like myself and Abhijit Iyer get away with what we do is, as of now, the Indian state is pretty docile and dysfunctional. You want us to stay alive or not? I mean, सोचो यार, दोनों मर जाएंगे हम दोनों.
The Indian state has never been able to macro. I don't know why it lost that ability at some point. I don't know when it lost that ability, but it's not been able to macro for a very, very long time. And I think, given the sort of socially upwardly mobile nature of the BJP, there's a lot of aspiration, but there's also a huge talent deficit out there, and there's a huge deficit of being able to understand sociological issues, because you see sociology and anthropology from a very dirty lens, that it's leftist.
It's a
Therefore,
Western
it is
construct,
humbuggery.
Abhijit. How dare you?
Yeah, it's a Western construct.
Okay, chalo, let's take more questions now. This is a very good point and a question, Abhijit. Somebody has given you a rebuttal saying, Abhijit, you underestimate the force that atheism is and the amount of pressure atheism tends to have on Abrahamic faiths.
Why don't you put the thing up, Baba, because you're
अरे मैं
breaking
नहीं
up.
डाल
So
सकता
why
मेरे
don't you
भाई.
put it up on the chat?
I can't put it up, mere bhai. I can't put it up because the chat moves so fast. I can't read. So I will tell you. Okay, I will type
Just
in
cut
the
and
chat.
paste it into the private chat, na?
Arey, I can't. There is a problem.
Acha.
I can't. So the question is, what about the effect of atheism on Abrahamic religions in India too? Atheism is spreading like wildfire, and it does matter.
Where is atheism spreading like wildfire?
Yeah, it is.
Where?
It is. In India, inside the Muslim community.
I'm not seeing it, boss.
Just like you have crypto Christians and crypto Muslims, you have crypto atheists all over the place. All over
One
the place.
second. I'm getting an emergency call. Just 1 second.
Okay, guys, I'm going to start talking to all of you in the meantime. So let me see. Okay, now the next question is, what are the possible scenarios that might happen if we get rid of secularism and make India a Hindu state? Well, if we make India a Hindu state, we will see. Okay, shabash, aa gaya. So what if we make India a Hindu state and get rid of secularism? Somebody has asked.
We are technically a secular state.
No.
The
What
problem
if we
is,
become a Hindu state?
see, becoming a Hindu state is fine. But what are you going to do as a Hindu state? Tell me, what specific problems do you think a Hindu state is going to solve? What problems did being a Islamic republic solve for Pakistan?
Okay,
Or
so
tell me, in what way has the French secular republic failed to protect Christianity?
okay,
So you tell me,
so
see, I hear people say Hindu state, but tell me, what is the constituent elements of becoming a Hindu state?
Mhm.
How are you going to define Hindu? How are you going
Okay,
to adjudicate thought? I was born a Hindu, I'm an atheist, but I still identify as a Hindu. You may not. According to Twitter, because I eat beef, therefore I cannot self-identify as a Hindu. What are the basic minimum of being a Hindu going to be? And then are you, for example, what is the consequences then of becoming an atheist? What is the consequences then of eating beef, other than, say, having a beef ban? So, for example, I support free speech, but there is a legal restriction on calling for violence. Similarly, there is a legal restriction on using certain caste slurs. So, free speech or not, when you break the law, if you call a Dalit person something, you deserve to go to jail the same way you deserve to go to jail for shouting Bharat Tere Tukde Honge, Inshallah, Inshallah, in JNU. Well, you don't deserve to go to jail for that, because I think it does not violate an extended Brandenburg principle. But Bharat ki barbadi tak jang rahegi, because it is a specific threat against a specific target, and it actually uses violence. Tukde can mean anything. Jang is not a esoteric principle. It's a very specific principle. Okay, so again, tell me what I hear, becoming a Hindu Rashtra will solve all our problems. Except when you turn around and tell me what is the definition of Hinduism. Do you really want to become a mirror image of Pakistan? Not
well,
that
that's what
Hinduism
people
will
think.
become a mirror image of Pakistan. The issue always is that when you weaponize religion in a third world country, there will be people who will use it for their own ends.
There will be. I
Always.
agree with you. All right. So somebody has asked, what if India starts growing economically at say 10% by 2004 by 2040s, and that economic growth? I guess the claim is, with economic growth comes a typical trend which is across the history of the world, where growth leads to more modernity. More modernity leads to dilution of religion. When dilution of religion happens, I guess all religions in society get diluted, and in that kind of a diluted society, I feel what they are trying to say is Hinduism tends to trump over other religions, is because it is not necessarily in conflict with an ultra modern society, Hinduism at a base level, or decentralized faiths. So what would happen in that scenario if India becomes economically progressive? Somebody has asked that question.
So So economic progress, that's a really good question, right? Because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't really know the answer because I'm still in the exploration phase. I haven't come across historical, I mean, as in I haven't gone into it. It's not that I have it's not that I've looked. I'm still formulating my thoughts on it. So let me share my thoughts with you on how it affects. Now, one of the things we see is that when a Hindu initially urbanizes, the old great attachment to the religion that comes with being rural stays in the first generation, maybe even the second generation. It starts dissipating at that point owing to urbanization and heterogeneity. Okay, it stops somehow becoming that important in certain cases. On the other hand, in certain cases, it actually becomes much more pronounced. And this is what Huntington refers to in his, Clash of Civilizations thesis, which is when a country is growing, it all automatically links it to the past. Now, the problem here is that technically speaking, you will find that conversion will tend to grow. So Huntington probably wasn't statistically accurate in that when he says you draw from your past and create continuity with your past, religion isn't necessarily part of that past. Because Christianity was the biggest growing religion in China till the government stamped it out very forcefully. It is still the biggest growing religion in Japan. It is the fastest growing religion in Taiwan. I think it's now very significant. South Korea has become a Christian majority in our lifetimes. Okay, so if you look at the generic Asian experience, this is it. On the other hand, look at the European experience, where they're becoming irreligious to the point they're actually turning against religion to a point. Okay, in Germany, it's kind of checked because of the tithe system that there are certain benefits of belonging to a church, that you get automatic entry into their schools and things like that of your particular sect and things in your parish and things like that. And a percentage of your income automatically goes to your church. If you do not belong to that church, you have to look for a government school outside the system, which is much more problematic and things like that. So, Germany has kind of retained the balance. But in Italy, you see an increasing, they're still very traditional, but they don't, there are a lot of people who are shifting out of it. In Spain, they've become completely irreligious because of the church's association with the Franco dictatorship. On the other hand, Mussolini's fight with the church, the church never entirely got along with him, kind of meant that people didn't go against the church for the sake of anger or things like that. So it's a very, very mixed bag. I don't know where this will go in India because I'm still searching for why has South Korea not yet turned irreligious. In fact, they're becoming more religious. In Japan, why are Christians becoming more religious, but the Buddhists and Shintos less religious? And why was Japan such fertile grounds? Because remember the revolts in the 1600s or 1700s, I think, the Christian uprisings, they were very, very brutally put down. So what made Christianity such a potent force there? Is the modern rise of Christianity in Japan, in spite of a falling population, related to that somehow? Is it similar social conditions? I haven't gotten into all of that. But based on Europe and based on, modern industrial Europe and the industrialization of these late tiger economies that you see in East Asia, I'm not in a position to draw conclusions right now. I'm just presenting to you what I see right now. It's going to take me about, depending on how motivated I am, something to come to the root causes of that. A few months to maybe even a year or more. We'll do a podcast on it when I have an answer. Could you put this down in the list of podcasts we have to do? Because once I see it in the list, Once I see it in a list, I'm motivated to start doing research. See, it's only when I'm meant to talk that Athena JSTOR, Athena Blackwell JSTOR membership that my organization pays through that nose for every year for research referenced articles comes into play.
All right. Acha. As if scaring Hindus was not enough, somebody has asked, does the end of Hinduism also mean the end of Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism?
Good question. I think not so much with Jainism. If you notice with Jainism, they get the benefits of being a minority. They're very staunch. And in fact, you look at a lot of the Kattarpanthi Hindus are Jains. Right. Who was the person who gave the clinching historical evidence in the Ram Mandir case? Meenakshi Jain. Okay. A lot of the VHP people that I know, in fact, all the VHP people I know are Jains or knew were Jains. They have a certain community identity. But remember, at one point of time, Jainism used to be the majority religion in large parts of India. Tamil
That's
Nadu
what
at
I
one
was just
point.
going to say, that
Yeah,
historically you can't make that case. Jainism and Buddhism got wiped out, and the only thing was left is
exactly.
Hinduism because it fought.
Yeah. Because it was, see, therein lies the thing. Buddhism and Jainism in India, it was a theological layer built on top of a Hindu base.
Mhm.
The theological layers were wiped out. The Hindu base always remained, and they came back to Hinduism. The problem is we don't have documentation of why this happened, because like I said, Indians are very bad at archiving and then retrieval. We're very bad at maintaining records, and then even if we maintain records, we don't know how to retrieve them. So when I look at Buddhism again, in Thailand, has it affected anything? No. In Cambodia, no. In Laos, no. In Vietnam, in spite of communists, no. In China, it's become very small because it's seen as a foreign religion again, but not particularly more than it was before, right? Japan, not really. The thing is, remember, with Buddhism, they have many countries. With India, with Hinduism, you've only got India. We don't have another place to go to. This is our last stand. Okay. With Sikhism, again, they have only one country, except they've also got Canada and Britain now.
Canada. Okay. What is the percentage, real percentage of Hindus, or sorry, Muslims and Christians in India, according to you, not the census data? What is your hunch? Somebody's asked.
I suspect Christians are about, okay, and I have to be very clear, this is a statistical sampling error that I'm going on, because I'm talking exclusively about what I have seen in Tamil Nadu and Southern Andhra. Well, okay, I say Southern Andhra, I should remember it is now Andhra state. I'm not talking about Telangana state. I'm talking about Andhra state. Sometimes I keep confusing the whole of Andhra with what is modern Andhra. So coastal Andhra. And coastal, but also interior Tamil Nadu, I would say at least about in Tamil Nadu alone, it would be 10 to 15% minimum of Christians. In some, unlike the increased Christian presence, which is very, very visible, the Muslim presence has increased in certain segments. So you, for example, about 15, 20 years back, we had a new district created, Milad something. It was like, Amrinder Singh wants to create a Muslim district there. It was kind of like that, where that had increased. In my ancestral village in district in Palakkad, I've seen the Muslim population increase to the point where there'll be about 23, 25, maybe even 30% now. And in Bengal, I've literally seen it when I was a kid, when we used to go to around in the villages and things, I would say the population there in Bengal is around 35% or 40% even, maybe. So, it's and you have to remember, I'm only talking about these states. And I extrapolate this onto others, knowing fully well that it's going to be different in different parts, right? In UP, I haven't seen much proof of any Christianity, but then, I'm in UP and Bihar, I'm usually too scared to go into the interior because they're such rough and tumble people, I don't like going into the interiors in those places. I go into certain areas and that's it. It's more a random sampling in those places that I've done rather than going deep in like I do in, say, Bengal or Andhra. Once upon a time in Telangana and Jharkhand as well, when I was doing research for my master's thesis on Naxals. But yeah.
Okay, so this is an interesting question. What if the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes convert for the money and mentally remain Hindu? Has Hinduism really died?
यार ये भी कोई चीज होती है, ये भी कोई
Valid
चीज
तो है
होती
ना,
है
valid है.
यार. There is no such thing as mentally Hindu, because all the crypto converts who converted to Judaism during the Reconquista, when Isabel and Ferdinand completed the Reconquista, within 1 or 2 generations, they were genuinely converted. There's in the list of the grandees of Spain, which is to say the nobility of Spain, it's officially called the grandees of Spain. You have the Duke of Medina Sidonia. The Duke of Medina Sidonia was a Muslim noble. Initially, the conversion was apparently a crypto conversion. A official conversion, but they remained crypto Muslims. And ultimately, they internalized Islam completely. Imagine bringing up a child in a crypto society. The kid won't know what they're talking about. You get caught, which happened to a lot of Jews and Muslims when the Christian Reconquista was completed in Spain. Right, so it doesn't really work. I mean, ye mental Hindu, I will never accept that, because a lot of people, used to keep saying, why don't we convert just to get into Christian colleges and things like that. I am never going to convert. I'm very clear about this, 100%. So even if I'm an atheist, I will always remain a Hindu. I am not converting, boss. Tumko karna hai, karo, but then convert back. Don't remain mentally Hindu. Get into St. Stephen's College, get your 3-4 years worth of education, and then bachelor's degree आजकल 3 साल का ही है ना, 4 साल का नहीं बन गया है ना. हाँ, तो 3 साल का कर लो.
4 की कर रहे हैं ना अभी. वो जो नए रिफॉर्म्स आए हैं उसमें नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में शायद 4 साल की कर रहे हैं शायद. आई एम नॉट श्योर.
और उसके बाद वापस आ जाओ. Now the issue here is, unlike our idiot government, the church actually has very strict controls on how you get. It doesn't matter Protestant or Catholic. They have very strict criteria for giving you admission, boss. The church has to give you a certificate saying that you are a Christian. In the Catholic Church, you have to go through your confirmation, your baptism, all of these certificates you have to know. They've got a very centralized system where they can drag up your name like that. They can tell right there. Your diocese priest will be putting notes. Does he attend Sunday Mass? Does he not attend Sunday Mass? Okay. For example, there is, I have a friend who, married, I have a Hindu friend who married this Christian guy, and her kids had to be brought up. As per the Catholic Church, you have to be, the wife does not have to convert, but the children have to be brought up Christian. Okay. They hadn't come to church for about 4 or 5 Sundays running because they were out on holidays abroad. They were actually going to church because the father is very observant and he takes the kids to church every weekend. The kids were actually going to church every weekend, but because it wasn't done in India, the pastor called up and he, not the parish priest, I don't know who it was anyway, called up and said, "Where the hell are you? You haven't come for 5 weeks." They mark. When I went to one or two masses as a kid because I was curious in the Christian rite to Santom Cathedral. There was no register or anything like that. But it's based on your parish priest knowing who you are. It is both formal and it is informal. You can never be accused of formality in that you have to sign a register saying that you've come or whatever. Attendance mark nahi karna padta hai school ki tarah. At the same time, if there's a prolonged absence, they will notice. And I asked her, do you have a register now? Because 25 years back, there was no register at Santom Cathedral. It was 30 years back. You didn't have a register in Santom Cathedral. Do you have one now? No, you don't. The priest knows us because you go to him for everything. If you want your kids' admission into a school, you go to your priest. He gets to know you, and then he keeps tabs on you. If you want to get admission into a Christian hospital, St. Mary's Hospital or something like that, you call the priest. They are the bureaucrats of the church. So they keep tabs on these things. You will not mentally. How do are you going to train your child to live a lie? Or when you're 16, 17, you convert to Christianity, you think you're going to immediately get into St. Stephen's College.
Abhijit, Abhijit, I am not denying the social stigma that exists in these communities, but you're grossly underestimating the social stigma of converting out of Hinduism also, and that working as a block, roadblock in converting out of Hinduism too. This is a societal stigma.
I have not seen it.
क्या बात कर रहा है यार तू? I have seen families boycotting their children.
I have never seen it, Kushal. I have never seen it.
यार मतलब यहाँ तो पता नहीं, मेरे सर्कल में सारे ही ऐसे नमूने कट्टर हिंदू हैं.
I have never seen it. I have seen a lot of my friends convert out without any social. The clearest example is the Reddys in Andhra. The community bond is stronger. The religion becomes immaterial till you convert to the religion, when the religious bond becomes much stronger. They will think of themselves as Reddys first till they convert to Christianity, in which case they start thinking of themselves as Christians first.
Okay, now other questions. So
this is the subsalience thing we spoke about in the last podcast.
Yeah, so obviously they say global trends show modernity is killing Christianity. Islam has been resilient till now. I don't know how they say it's been resilient, because I think modernity has already started having its effect. Actually, मैं एक point भूल गया Abhijit, so give me a couple of minutes. I also wanted to make my point on a lot of times people assume Islam is resilient. They don't realize that modernity has already started having its effect on Islam in Arab states, with Saudi Arabia and Dubai changing in a major way. And people forget, if the elite hypothesis matters, the elites are usually the ones who are rich. If either the people are assuming that Pakistan is going to be the future elite of Islamic world, then I don't know what they are smoking, because elitism stems from monetary heft. And as of now, the Muslim world has monetary heft in terms of the Arab world. Now, if the Arab world is slowly modernizing, don't you think even the other Islamic world will modernize in 50 years down the line? And that way, can it not help Hinduism in a big way?
Sure. So the thing is, like I said, you brought the point in about Christianity. I showed you how modern countries in the West, it is going away from Christianity, but in the East, it is not. South Korea today is a developed country. Japan is a developed country. Taiwan is a developed country. Singapore is a developed country. But you're actually seeing a strengthening of the church out there. But it's not happening in Australia, for example. Australia, the church is dying. So there's something happening in the European, and Australia is, I mean, let's face it,
weird nations.
And something very different happening in Asian nations, right? So we have to account for this statistical divergence, number one. Islam, very interesting. We thought that Turkey or Iran would be the first to come out of this morass. We were wrong. Turkey has regressed very significantly. Iran regressed in 79. There seems to be both with Turkey and Iran that when you reach a certain income threshold, the pushback becomes too much. On the other hand, look how beautifully the UAE has managed this. But even in the UAE, look at the contradiction. All of the UAE benefited, the crucial states which became the UAE, there's 7. Dubai, Sharjah, Dubai, Abu Dhabi is the biggest. So Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, Ajman, Ras Al Khaimah, Al Qain. Is that it? Did I miss out anything? Yeah.
I don't know.
Out of these, Dubai and I think Abu Dhabi as well have legalized cohabitation. Can you imagine a Muslim country, an avowed Muslim country, legalizing cohabitation? When that whole thing happened with the Tablighi Jamaat, when people were tweeting against it and the assholes, Indian jihadis were going after them, doxing them, saying you're in Qatar, you're in UAE. Did the UAE arrest even a single person, a single Hindu, for saying what they did? And they were saying some genuinely outrageous things. Living in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and things. They didn't. They've gotten over it. They let you build your temples out there, even though it's a Muslim state. You are not allowed to do it. Do they collect jizya from you? They don't. Oman had that Hindu temple long back, and the Hindus in Oman, they love their king. They genuinely love him because he's never interfered in anything. And for a long time, Oman used to consider itself Indian also. Now to theek hai, badal gaya hai. But in Oman and in UAE, in some parts of the UAE, you see this. On the other hand, look at what has happened in Sharjah, which is one of the important states within the UAE. Within the last 10 years, they imposed Sharia law. They've gone back in time. There is just too much statistical variance here. The only positive sign has been Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I am hoping Saudi Arabia will go that way. Fingers crossed. I'm really praying for it. You guys don't know. Every time, in spite of being an atheist, I have to show you something. Hang on.
गया किधर लाएगा अभी कोई artifact अपने साथ. I'm sorry. Okay. In the meantime, guys.
No. Wait. This is for my daily puja. Okay. 108 times a day, I will say Om Namah Shivaya. Do you know who I say Om Namah Shivaya for? Mohammed bin Salman.
Wow.
I don't think you people realize how much of the future course of Islam depends on that man. And if he actually manages to do what his mentor, the Amir of Abu Dhabi, managed to pull off.
Nice.
Okay. If that happens, yes. But everywhere else, I think statistically, if in the case of Christianity, it's 50-50, 50% positive, 50% negative. In the case of Islam, it's almost, say, 95% negative, and the only two shining examples are Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
But here's the thing, Abhijit. These are the people who have the money, right? So if the money ones start changing, then the effects are always on the basis of the elite hypothesis. Then again, that's good for Hinduism, right?
Right. But remember, the other big money player in this is Qatar, which is, if anything, it's doubling down. There isn't a single jihadi movement that isn't supported by Qatar. Iran is a huge superpower in the region, whether we like it or not. Sanctions or no sanctions, Iran has a huge hand in everything out there. Turkey interferes in everything out there. Right? Mm-hmm. So that crossover, if and when it happens, if Saudi Arabia becomes, let's see.
All right. So, okay, now I'm going to ask for 4 or 5 questions together because they are all interlinked and people keep repeating the same question. So again, somebody was saying they think you are underestimating the role of organizations, not just like RSS, Baba Ramdev, etc., etc. You know the organization. Even at local level, Haryana has Khap Panchayats, like example. Now, we are no fans of Khap Panchayats, but they also play a role. Like, I'll give you an example, Abhijit. Now, this is not an endorsement of Asaram Bapu or anything, but I'll tell you, in Gujarat, Asaram Bapu and his entire organization only focuses in the tribal belt in Gujarat. That's all they do. They go to the Gujarat. So this is what happens in Gujarat. The church goes, converts a village. Asaram Bapu's organization goes, reconverts that village and converts the next village also. This is actually happening in Gujarat, and it actively happens, which is one of the reasons, Abhijit, that number on Pew, right? That number that shows if people leave, equal number of people are coming back. This is actually, I see, again, I will not say beyond a point. You know it offline. I'm not going to say things online. I'm telling you this is happening. The Hindu Samaj has now become very active in this business of reconverting.
Again, in my areas, I don't see it. Gujarat, I have no problems believing it, because when I went to Gujarat when Modi was chief minister, I did in fact see that. I saw that there was a confidence amongst Hindus. There was a certain, the fear of the Congress had gone.
Exactly. It happens because of the political power.
Congress used to be. Exactly. Because remember, Modi, I think, was the longest serving chief minister of Gujarat, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I don't think any chief minister of Gujarat had ever had that kind of consistent victory ratio that Narendra Modi did.
And before Modi ji, you have to understand, BJP has been in power in Gujarat for such a long time. See, this is where I always say, I know you hate BJP. Even I am a critic of BJP.
I don't hate the BJP. Okay, you need to get this straight. I don't hate the BJP. Just like I don't hate the Congress. I hate Rahul Gandhi. I really admire Chief Minister Narendra Modi, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been the biggest disappointment of my life.
Okay, let me complete my point.
Now, in Gujarat, you had to have terms where the government purely being neutral, because contrary to popular belief that he was an anti-Muslim, pro-Hindu chief minister, he was not. He was a strictly neutral chief minister, which alone gave that confidence to the Hindus to go do what they wanted to do in terms of conversion, reconversion, setting up colleges, setting up schools. There was that stability.
Mera point. Ek point.
Hence, institutions matter.
Just let me, we'll go to the next question, but I have to make this point, which is why I keep harping to each and every person why political power matters. You may not get the ideal political power sitting, but this is why political power, not just at the center, at the state matters, even at the municipal level matters. See, there are so many times your bloody panchayat sarpanch or your nagar sevak can stop 10 conversions like this, because that nagar sevak is available over there. If he is a pro your ideology guy, he will immediately intervene there. Tum kya kar rahe ho idhar? See, I have had cases where again, there is a bus which is blue colored that goes around in Mumbai. People know it's called the magic bus. It does the magic of conversion, and every time the magic bus is seen in areas where there was a BJP, or again, I'll say it openly, a Shiva Sena corporator, you know what that corporator did? वो डंडा लेके पहुंच जाते थे उधर. वो बोलते रहे, भाग इधर से, क्या करने आया है इधर, तेरे को क्या करने का इधर, भाग इधर से. So these things, this is just I'm trying, which is why political power. So if you want to save Hinduism, you need political power.
So here's the issue. You can't do it this way where the corporator goes out and says, Ruk.
Yes,
because this is a very personalized decision. It depends on the leadership and things like that. And I don't support this kind of hooliganry. Right. In fact, I remember the Jehovah's Witnesses tried to convert me when I was doing my BCom in Madras. And I played along with it for almost 6 months. I got a whole stash of very expensive printed books from them. I got almost 20-30 books from them, which would have been worth thousands of rupees. And I was like, yeah, I want to convert. I see the light of Jehovah and all that nonsense. And these women, they were coming from autos all the way from Krompet or something like that, which even in those days, 20, 30 years back, 25 years back, 60 rupees was a lot of money for an auto. 60, 70 rupees was a lot of money for an auto in those days. Udhar to long distance mein, it used to be 30 rupees, so 60 rupees was like massive. I made them come almost every week, once a week, almost for 6-7 months, stringing them along, only because I wanted the books, because those books were really great. I used to take them to school and circulate them and see, look, what kind of shit are they talking about and things like that. In those days, we didn't have Wikipedia for ready reference. But then, there was enough that you could go search and find out that these stories were all humbug and things like that. And we used to sit and giggle over it. So it was more of a, let me waste conversion resources allocated to me. And they saw me, rich boy, a big house, huge garden, foreign cars sitting in the driveway. This is going to be a good catch. He can, he can donate money towards converting more people. So, see, I can do this. Not everybody can. In fact, the books were so sophisticated that some of my classmates, because I was taking it to class to make fun of it, some of them actually, it sparked doubts in their mind. And it's something I would consider crude, like, the story of Daniel in the lion's den in the Bible. Or who was it in the whale? Jonah and the whale, I think it is. And, the 10 Commandments and things. But the way they connected it to the modern world and things like that, 2-3 people even in my class were like, oh, that makes sense. So it was very sophisticated. It hits you in places you don't understand. So anyway,
right.
I mean, I was 20 and yeah. So
okay, what role could the UCC? So 3 things: the BJP gets the Uniform Civil Code, and it becomes a reality. Do you think that helps in saving Hinduism or not? 2, they come up with a unique law which is anti-conversion, which is pan-India, and it specifically says you can't convert out of Hinduism.
No, you can't do that. I will oppose that tooth and nail. I mean, you can do it. I will oppose it. I will never accept it because that will always be abused. That will always be abused.
No, I'm with you, but I'm just asking a question that was asked.
Yeah. So, no, there has to be freedom of thought. If you feel that it is. However, what you say is that conversion happens in the mind, and any conversion for benefits will not apply to this family, at least for this generation and the succeeding generation.
Okay, so and what about how much of a benefit will the UCC do?
One second. UCC. So UCC. So there is one point of view that the UCC is bad because it helps balance out the population, because the high UP Hindu birth rate balances off the Kerala Muslim birth rate. UCC will be a disaster. And the benefits that accrue from a UCC and things like that, and population control UCC and all of this, it will, Muslims and Christians don't depend on the state, and therefore incentivizing certain things as state measures will never work on them. I accept that. But I also see the other point of view, which is that if you have a uniform civil code, it works perfectly if it happens in conjunction with everything else, which is India starts industrializing. We're probably too late for that, but India starts industrializing, growth happens, people keep getting richer, etc., etc., etc. And police and judicial reforms happen. Okay. Other than that, if we continue to remain a pre-industrial state, then UCC might not be the best thing to do.
Okay. And what about reservations? Do you think one should eventually get rid of reservations to save Hinduism? Somebody's asked. I'm just asking a question.
No.
Okay.
Reservations is what is keeping Hinduism alive at the moment, because it is a very important counter where the most disadvantaged Hindu feels that he can at least get an education and opportunities that were never available for him. Now, should reservation be phased out when we industrialize? Reservation is not linked to uh, uh, conversion. Well, reservation is linked to how you progress industrially. Once you become an industrial country, you can get rid of reservation. Till then, you can't. The resource crunch is the problem. Then increase the number of schools, increase the number of colleges. You don't want to do that. So all of this has to happen, boss. Remember, there's never a one solution. I keep saying this. It's UCC will help if it is in conjunction with several solutions. Ending reservation happens right now. Reservation is protecting Hinduism. And all these idiots are going after the bloody RSS for protecting Hinduism through reservation.
I agree with you.
I don't think
you
realize how much reservation has protected the vast majority of people who are not Brahmins from turning. Okay, so just because you don't benefit from it and your life has been made miserable by it, that somebody less qualified than you got it, doesn't mean it's bad for Hinduism. It's actually good for Hinduism. What's even better for Hinduism is if you industrialize, if you get rid of socialism.
Okay, this was a very specific question about a comment you made. So somebody said, I would love to know if Abhijit, Hindus have a terrible track record of keeping what is record keeping. So what is a modern solution? And is there any organization that you know that is working on it? This is a very specific question about a comment you made.
Yeah. No, I don't know any organization that's working on it because we don't have, the archives does not do a good job. They're not doing a good job of digitization. They're not doing a good job of storage. In fact, even in, government departments, there is no digitization and things like that proceeding apace. And where the digitization happens, the retrieval is a nightmare. In the American system, the first thing they did was digitization the moment it became available. So all documents, any guy who has it's based on security clearance. Once you have security clearance in a certain bureau, you're allowed to access all historical documents to get context of what is being spoken about. In India, we don't do that. Does there need to be a project for it? Maybe yes, we can start one with corporate funding and government help, but ultimately, because most of the archives are held with the government, it has to be done by the government or with the cooperation of the government.
All right, just 2-3 questions. Okay, this is for me. I'm just answering because somebody has asked me a question. It's only fair if so somebody has asked, Kushal, when you over intellectualize things and forget your fighting instinct, do you perish? Am I right? I don't think so. You perish because look, where you have to fight for something, you have to intellectualize and be precise in your attack. So what you need to understand is, see, I always agree with you in that sense that so you can't be just an intellectual or just pure jisko bolte hain na brawling kind of a guy. So I always use the analogy of Jagira from China Gate. वो Jagira once used the line, बहादुरी तो ले आए, कमीनापन कहाँ से लाओगे? तो कमीनेपन के लिए you have to be an intellectual, and for बहादुरी you need your whatever you need, brain and brawn, as they say, or whatever that word is in English. So that was for me. And now a couple of questions are there. I actually don't see any other question. We've covered pretty much everything. And Abhijit has suddenly disappeared again. So I don't know. Okay, let me see. Okay, there's just one, because I tried to go through all your super chats and I'm only taking the questions. There were just comments after comments after comments, and I was like, my comments ka kya karu? So I don't know what to do about comments. Like, I'm here for the questions. This was supposed to be a Q&A. Again, I see a comment again. I don't see a question. Okay, there is one question. Dharampal mentions in 1800s that all castes used to study in gurukuls, and more damage to Hindu culture was done in the 70s when Mrs. Gandhi transferred educational control to... Okay, Abhijit is back. As always, his internet is playing up. So one last question, Abhijit, and then we'll wrap it up. And I'll put it on the screen so that you can read it. So Dharampal mentioned in 1800 all castes used to study in Gurukul. More damage to the Hindu culture in 70s was done when Mrs. Gandhi transferred educational control. Will it be hard to reverse it again?
Yes.
But I think the baseline should not be
I can't
Dharampal's
hear you.
education. No. So what I'm saying
I
is
love
Dharampal should not be the
Dharampal.
base.
I recommend everybody read Dharampal because he will teach you a lot. He will teach you a heck of a lot in terms of what was happening. So that read Dharampal's books. It was actually Makarand Paranspe who introduced me to Dharampal. Fantastic stuff. Please read. But yeah, what
It
he
is
says
5
is
volumes.
right.
It is 5 volumes, and the one volume which talks about education is called The Beautiful Tree. I have read Dharampal's works. I have all the 5 volumes of Dharampal. So yeah. So I guess we've covered everything. Abhijit, any last closing comments? I'll give you the closing comments.
Yes, okay. My closing comments are very simple. You're at the precipice. Historically, it is always best to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Don't prepare for the best. Prepare for the worst. Institutionalize, institutionalize, institutionalize. Your PM should be scared of you. Your MLA should shit his pants when you enter his room. Your MP should wet his pants when you enter his room. Okay. Institutionalize. Institutionalize, coordinate, use that critical, convert whatever institutional power you have into political power. Always aim for institutional solutions. Never aim for single point agendas. Always aim for multi-pronged attacks. Multi-pronged intersectional policy, and by intersectional I don't mean woke shit. You know what I mean by intersectional policy. That's how you prevent this from happening. Might Hinduism survive? Yeah, it might. I don't personally think it will. Okay, because I would always, working in defense, you always plan for the worst. And if good things happen, great. Okay, but you always plan for the worst, and so you always come up with the worst case scenario. Always do that. Because once you realize you haven't planned for the worst, nothing's going to save you. Okay, but basically, guys, it's this. Make your prime minister fear you. He shouldn't love you. Okay. He should fear you.
Okay, I get it. So please scare Mr. Modi, but please vote for him. While you're scaring him, make sure you vote for him. So here's the thing, guys. Once again, a lot of you, a lot of you were, like, mera email, mera ye, mera wo. Look, I had 4 or 5 detailed emails. I forwarded all those emails to Abhijit. Look, we cannot answer an entire email on a live discussion. Please, for goodness sake. Abhijit, on his own sweet time, if he feels like replying, will reply to that email. My job was to take your email and forward it to Abhijit. Abhijit is right here right now. He will confirm. I forwarded each and every email that I got to him like a good boy that I am. But at the end of the day, you don't expect me.
And what did I tell you? Save up the emails for Q&A.
अबे साले 4 पेज का email
Save up
पढ़ूं
the
मैं.
emails for Q&A, because look, it's reached the point where I just cannot. I get so many mails a day. I get so many DMs a day. Insta, Twitter, Facebook, everything. Forget being able to respond. I can't even read them. On my WhatsApp, I've got like 1,500 messages. I've just turned off my WhatsApp notifications. I've turned off my SMS notifications. I've turned off my email notifications. I only get emails from colleagues and known friends from contacts, and I just can't respond. The volume is just too much. I'm not an asshole like Nissim Nasib Taleb, whatever he is, who carries around that poster saying no selfies. No, I just can't read and respond to everything. I just can't. It's physically impossible. So I'm really sorry. I'm not being an asshole. I just can't. I could do that when I had like 4,000 followers on Twitter. And I miss those days because it was great fun chatting with people. I just can't do that anymore, boss. Like mere Twitter messages me. I still have about 600 unread messages. Going back to before my arrest in Odisha, going back to 2018, some to 2017, I just can't deal with it. That's why I had to close my inbox, because I just couldn't deal with the bloody volume.
And I can't read 4-page emails on a live stream. This is very simple. It's not complex. Yes. So,
but shame on you, Kushalmehra. You should have, condensed it and ask me succinct questions. This is a fail on part of your podcast host, not on part of me.
अच्छा इसे देखो, इसे बोलते हैं मौके पे चौका मारना, इसे बोलते हैं अव्वल दर्जे का कमीना इंसान जो लास्ट मोमेंट पे मुझे मेरी पॉडकास्ट में साला ले रहा है और मैं कुछ कर नहीं सकता इसके लिए और ले रहा है. Anyways, guys, look, I'll just say this. I disagree with Abhijit, but and I'll give you a very heartening ending. Abhijit has a very good track record of being wrong.
See, I just wanted to tell you, I agree with Abhijit 100%. Abhijit is a Hindu, whereas Kushalmehra is actually a Pakistani ISI Muslim, Christo-Muslim agent who's trying to convert all of you. If you disagree with me, you're fundamentally from the ISI, okay? Remember that. Only people who agree with me are Dharma Bhaktas.
Yeah. All right, guys. Okay, we'll end this discussion. This is going to be a never-ending discussion, but
it is.
Look, I tried my best. I think in the first video I gave Abhijit all the time to make his points. I tried my best to share my opinion, although look, I always tend to share them better when I prepare for it in a monologue where I can speak nonstop for 45 minutes, and I will do that maybe in one of those monologues. And I'll just end this discussion today with this super chat on the screen. The horror you shared in the last podcast, can it be reversed in any way? So guys, I'm just going to leave this. I just want to tell you, do not get scared. We are here for 5,000 years.
Get scared. Get scared. This fellow's a Pakistani. He's a Mombatti wala he's the illegitimate son of Kuldeep Nayyar, who goes and holds candle lights on the border saying Pakistanis are our brothers. Sayyid Salahuddin mera beta hai aur Masood Azhar mera baap hai. Don't listen to him. Do not listen to him.
Okay.
This is not the time for complacency.
Okay, Abhijit Iyer. That's what we leave today's discussion with, guys. I'm wrapping up today's show. As always, guys, thanks for watching the live stream. Thanks for supporting the chats and supporting the podcast. I'll extract the audio version and I'll put it up in a while. Please direct your abuses for Abhijit on Twitter. And just one passing comment to all the people who wasted so many comments. Look, and I'm purposely saying this when Abhijit is on, and I'm literally going to end the stream without letting anybody say anything. Look, a lot of people, you went after me about, Are, aap Abhijit ko bula rahe ho. So I just want to put this on the record on the live stream, and it should stay. I will call him again and again and again and again. And I don't care what you think about it. Abhijit is my friend. I don't need to agree with him on anything, and I'll always be his friend. So on that note, we'll end this podcast.
Can I say one thing? Just one thing. I will continue eating beef. You're not going to change my mind about it. You don't pay my bills. You don't get to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
If you want me to stop it, then ban it. It's legal. Okay? Don't fucking tell me what to do if you're not putting food in my plate or petrol in my car.
Okay. Yes.
Okay? And if that is your sine qua non of being a Hindu or whatever, please unfollow me, block me. I don't want to interact with people like you. I don't want to know you. I'm not interested in you. So whatever. And for the people abusing me, my only request is please come up at least with innovative abuses. ये mother chod, behan chod, ये ना ये this thing, you know, it's very boring. Today somebody called me Genda Swami. See, that's such a nice.
That is the best.
Yeah, Genda Swami is such a nice abuse. Why can't you come up with that? तो गाली दो, मैंने कभी नहीं बोला गाली दो. But if you use casteist slurs, I'm fucking going to report you under the SC/ST Act. Make no mistake about it. My food choices are not up for discussion or arbitration. Screw you. I will eat what I want. I will post what I want on Twitter. Okay?
There you go.
Screw you. And third, if you're going to abuse me, perfectly fine. That is your prerogative. Maa ki gali do, baap ki gali do. I'm not going to report you to the police. That's perfectly fine. But please, at least do me the decency of coming up with innovative abuses. ठीक है, पुराना चीज बार बार करके कुछ ये नहीं होने वाला है. The left hasn't been able to cancel me. You fuckers, तुम्हारी औकात में नहीं है मेरे को cancel करने के लिए. So tata.
So tata, guys, and like I said, we will see you and Abhijit on the podcast with another discussion which is going to depress you very soon, but that is for some other time. Until then, take care. Bye.